Hello friends, so now we will understand inductive reactance. To understand inductive reactance, we need to understand how does a circuit behave which has a pure inductor and an AC source of supply. We will limit our discussion to a AC sinusoidal current source only in this discussion. So to begin with, let us understand some conventions which will make it easier to discuss and interpret what actually happens and how does this circuit behave. So first is the clockwise current will be taken as the positive current, which means if the current flows from A to C to D to B, this will be taken as positive, and the otherwise the reverse direction, which means the counterclockwise direction, will be taken as the negative current. Points that need a recall is that since it is a pure inductor circuit, we are assuming that there is no resistance in the circuit, and we are not going to apply or we are not going to interpret the circuit on the basis of Ohm's law. So Ohm's law we are not considering for this circuit. Now there are some natural properties of an inductor that we need to understand first before we'll discuss what happens to the charge when a supply or an alternating supply or a sinusoidal supply is given to an inductor which is purely an inductor circuit. So friends, this is a natural tendency of an inductor or an induction coil that if a current tries to travel from its one part to another part, a magnetic flux or a magnetic field is generated in its substance, and the flux linked with this coil is proportional to the current that is passing through these coils and number of turns or the coils. Now the natural tendency of this inductor is to maintain its magnetic flux or magnetic field. For a constant current I, this, as I said, that the magnetic field is dependent on the current that is passing through this coil. So for a constant current, this will remain constant. However, for an alternating current, the value of this I tends to change. Either it will be increasing or it will be decreasing. Now in both the situations, this coil will try to oppose the change that is happening in the current, which means if there is decrease in the current, this coil will set up a electromotive force or EMF called back EMF, such that this reduction in the current is supported and the current in the coil is trying to maintain its previous or its initial value, which means the back EMF is so developed that the decreasing current will be supported and we will have the current still in this direction. Another important fact is that the higher the tendency of the current to fall or to rise, the more will be the back EMF produced, because it is to oppose this tendency of rising or declining of the current, which means the more the dV dt of the source, which means the more the time rate change of the voltage in the source, the more will be the back EMF produced, but in the opposite direction. And the more the back EMF produced, the more will be the induced current in the coil that is trying to maintain its current in the coil, and in turn it is trying to maintain the magnetic field or the magnetic flux linked to that coil. So now we are in a position to understand what happens through the complete cycle when the current flows through this inductor circuit, and what is going to be the origin or what is going to be the basis of this inductive reactance. So this is, I have drawn two sinusoids. One sinusoid is for voltage and the other sinusoid is for the current, that is the induced current in this circuit, and by color code the white sinusoid is the sinusoid of the source voltage and yellow sinusoid is the sinusoid of the. So now let us understand quarter by quarter what happens in the circuit and how does current behave in an inductor circuit or a purely inductor circuit. I again repeat, we assume that there is no resistance in this circuit, so the energy is given to the inductor, and let us see how does it behave. So in the first quarter, that is 0 to 1, I have drawn the steps like 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is the complete sinusoid. You can see in these 4 steps, both of these sinusoids complete one cycle. So this is your time and this is your intensity. This is your intensity or the amplitude. This is the time on x-axis. So what happens in the first phase, that is 0 to 1. For simplicity, let us break this whole event into certain sub-events so that we understand what is actually happening in this circuit and how the inductor would behave to any change that is being imposed on it in the circuit due to the changing sinusoidal voltage of the source. So first is you have the first phase, that is 0 to 1. In this phase, let us see what is happening to the voltage, not the rate of voltage. The voltage is maximum and then it is reducing to 0. The white one is voltage. So the voltage is reducing or decreasing from maximum to minimum value. However, it is positive. By convention, we have taken the upper side as positive and lower side as the negative. That simply means that when this side is positive, A is going to be positive and B is going to be negative 1 at the lower potential. And when I say that it is going to be negative, this simply means that the A will be at a lower potential and B would be at the higher potential. So that is the convention for the voltage. So we assume now that this is at the maximum point at time t0. So in the first quarter, we will find that the voltage is reducing. Now what is happening to the rate of change of voltage? What is happening to the rate of change of voltage? So the rate of change of voltage, you can see here the theta with the horizontal line is nil and here the theta is maximum. So we can say that the rate of change of voltage is going to be increasing from its minimum value to the maximum value. Now imagine what is happening at this point. This is having a maximum value. So there is a tendency of the current to flow in this direction. But now it has started dropping. Initially it is dropping slower and then it is dropping faster. So this A is dropping its potential faster. What will happen to the current? The current, which is positive current, will tend to decrease because the potential at the A pole is getting decreased, and initially it is getting decreased slowly and then it is becoming faster and faster. Now in reaction to this change in the voltage and in reaction to this subsequent change to the current that is happening in this circuit, because as I said, at the maximum point there would be the tendency of the current to flow in this positive direction, but now this is dropping. If it is dropping, the positive current would drop. Initially it will drop slowly because the rate is slow, but later you will find that it will drop. Towards the end of this quarter, you will find that the rate of the drop is fastest. So in reaction to this coil would try to set up some back EMF such that this dropping current is supported. Now how can this be supported? Because this is a clockwise current, this is a positive current. So the only ways you should have a potential which is positive here and negative here. So this coil will develop a back EMF such that the C point or the first point of the coil is positive and the other point is negative. So the amount of current which is decreasing due to drop in this pole, it will be compensated by this back EMF. Now as you know that initially the back EMF is lesser because the rate of drop of this potential is lesser. Now as it is increasing, the back EMF will also increase in reaction. So you will find that initially the current is less, and as the dV/dt picks up and it comes to the maximum value, the back current or the induced current or the back EMF is at its best or at its maximum. So this is how the first quarter can be explained, that in reaction to the dropping potential at the A or this side, you have a dropping tendency of the current from C to D or from A to C to D to P. Now to support this dropping current, there will be a back EMF which is developed in this circuit and in this coil, and such that, and the only way you can support a clockwise current is you have another EMF which is from C to D, positive to negative, higher potential to lesser potential, and that is exactly what the inductor has done, and this is how the current is increasing from 0 to 1. Now what happens when the current increases in this coil? When the current, initially it was 0, so there was no current in the coil. Now when it has started increasing, you will have the magnetic field lines produced in this inductor, because that is something which is very inherent with the current. A current carrying inductor will have in its substance, in its core, the magnetic field set, and the magnetic field is such that if the current is flowing from this point to this point, we say that this is a north, this will be a north pole and this will be the south pole of the magnetic field. So the magnetic field is set, and the more the current travels, the more will be the magnetic field set, and we say that the magnetic flux is built up in this phase because the current is rising. So the current is rising, and in reaction the back EMF is rising, and because of this the magnetic field or the magnetic flux is rising. Now we are at point 1, or we are starting the second quarter. Now what happens to second quarter? We can see that this pole, this A point or this A pole is still dropping in its potential, but the rate of the drop of the potential is now decreasing, or you can say it is still dropping, but it is, or you can say it is increasing its potential in the opposite direction, which means now it has come to the 0, and now it is coming to the negative value. However, the rate is max. You can see this white line is steepest here and it is almost horizontal here, which means the rate is lesser here and the rate is a maximum here, which means the potential is rising from minimum value to maximum value, and it's changing its position also, or it's changing its polarity also. The A point of the pole, or the A point of the source, or this pole of the source is further dropping. Initially I was dropping, but it was having some positive value. Now from that positive value it has taken a 0 value. Now in this quarter, from the 0 value it is further decreasing down, and it is so decreasing that it will take some negative value to a maximum, and till that value the rate of drop of the potential will also be reduced, and it will be 0 here. Now what will happen in this inductance? You can see that initially it was trying to maintain a positive current, and what is the tendency of further drop? The further drop from 0 to negative would again give further drop in this positive current, because now up till this point the current is positive. Now this positive current is, there is a tendency now again to drop, because this pole is not supporting, so this pole is dropping. When this pole is dropping the potential, the natural tendency of the current would be to reduce, because the potential difference between these two poles will be lesser. But in a reaction again to oppose this tendency of reduced current or dropping potential, this inductance will again support the current. That is a tendency, but it doesn't have any energy now. So what will it do? It will try to de-link its flux. The magnetic energy that was stored in this phase will be released in this phase. So the current will drop down, because it doesn't have any energy, it will have only stored energy. So that stored energy is taken up, and the current is again tried to maintain by this coil in this positive direction from C to D. That means it is still positive, it is still negative, this is still north pole, this is still going to be the south pole, and the current is somehow maintained in up till second half. The energy it could store in the form of magnetic energy or magnetic flux in this quarter is returned back to the circuit in this quarter, and somehow the current is maintained in the positive direction, because at the start of this second quarter it was already at the highest value, so it was possible for it to decline it, and by the time it declines, it comes to the 0, the second quarter it could survive. In the other words, we can also say that since the dV by dt is falling from here, from its maximum value to its lower value here, which again means the current will be decreasing from its maximum value to its minimum value, because the dV by dt, that is the rate of change of potential, will decide how much will be the EMF produced in this coil. Now here it is maximum, so EMF is maximum here, and when the EMF is maximum here, the current is maximum here. Here at the point when the quarter is ending, or it is half cycle, you can say, here at this point this is coming almost to 0, so the back EMF has to come to the 0, and it has come to the 0, which is why the current has come to the 0 value. So in one half of the cycle, we have seen that first quarter it tried to support a declining positive current. In the second quarter it still tried to support a declining current, but in this whole process, whatever it could earn, whatever it could store in the form of magnetic energy, it has to release in the second quarter. Now let us see what happens in the third quarter. So again, we will see it's in the subcomponents what is happening to the voltage. Voltage is dropping from its maximum value to minimum value. See, this is the, though this is the negative side, but this is the maximum value. So the voltage is dropping from its maximum value to its minimum value. And you see the rate is changing from minimum rate to the maximum rate. So the dV by dt, or the rate of change of voltage at this pole, is increasing from a minimum value to the maximum value, or from a zero value to the maximum value. So when you know that this is increasing, the current has to increase. When the rate increases, because now this is trying to go towards the zero side, which means now it is trying to go towards the positive side. We can say initially it was coming towards the zero and then towards the negative, from the higher value to the zero and then towards the negative. Now from the negative it is trying to approach to the positive side, which means it is trying to approach towards the zero. Now when it is trying to go towards the positive side, which means it will try to oppose the inductor, or the back EMF will try to oppose it. Now how can this do? The tendency of the voltage to come towards the positive, which means that there is a tendency now in the circuit to increase the positive current, because now it is again going towards the positive side. So there will be a tendency to go towards the, there will be a tendency to increase the positive current. This will be again opposed, and this time, because they have to, the coil is not trying to support the declining positive current, now it is trying to oppose the rising positive current, so it will take a negative back EMF, which means now you will have negative here and you will have positive here, and the poles will, the magnetic field setup will also be opposite. You will have now south pole here and you will have the north pole here. We can see it in the other way also. You see, in the third quarter, initially the dV by dt is 0, which means the current needs to be 0, and it is 0 here. Now you see what is happening to the dV by dt, or the rate of change of the voltage in the source. It is increasing now, and at this point the rate is steepest, so the current has to be steepest. So one thing is that the current is going to take a minimum value to maximum value. Now in which direction? So the direction is given by the Lenz's law, which says that the direction of the current, or the direction of the back EMF, will always be opposing the change that has produced this. So which change has produced this? The voltage is trying to become more and more positive now. Decreasing the negative value means you are increasing its positive value, which means now from here onwards there is a tendency in the circuit to increase the positive current. Previously in these two quarters there was a tendency to decrease the positive current. The positive, it was going towards the negative side, and the current was, the positive current was tended to decreasing, which was maintained by a positive current. Now because the positive current is trying to increase, the tendency of the coil would be to produce a back EMF, to set a back EMF in such a direction such that the positive current should be opposed. Now how can a positive current be opposed? The only way is we have a negative pole here, we have a positive pole here, such that the current now will flow in this direction, which means it is opposite a negative current, or which means it is an opposition for the positive current. So this is actually what is happening. Now when we say that this is positive and this is negative, eventually we mean to say that this magnetic field is set up in this coil, and it is so set that this is going to behave like the south pole of the magnet, and this is going to behave like the north pole of the magnet. Now since the current is increasing, at this point of time the current was not in the coil. Now since the current is increasing, again this magnetic field is set and magnetic flux is linked, which means again the energy is stored in this quarter. Again the energy is stored in this quarter in the form of the magnetic energy, or in the form of the magnetization of the core, or in the form of the magnetic flux that is increasing and that has taken a maximum value at this point, or at the end of the third quarter. Now we are at the end quarter of the last quarter, fourth quarter of the cycle or the sinusoid. Let us see again what is happening to the voltage in this quarter. So we can see that the voltage is increasing from 0 to a positive value, that is the maximum value. So the voltage is increasing, the source voltage is increasing, it is in the last quarter of its sinusoid, and it is increasing from 0 to the maximum of the positive value from where we started the sinusoid. Now if this is increasing, this means again there is a tendency that the positive current in the circuit will be increased due to the source. The source is now trying or is now giving the potential difference to the circuit in such a manner that the positive current will tend to rise because the positive voltage is rising. Now when the positive current is tending to rise, automatically there will be a tendency of the back EMF to oppose this positive current rise. And how can this be done? It will still remain, it will still try to oppose it by creating a back EMF, and that is negative here and positive here, which means south pole here and north pole here. Magnetic field is so far. And now you see the rate is maximum here and the rate is falling. The voltage is increasing at this pole, but initially it is increasing very fast and then it is increasing very slowly, which though it is increasing but the rate is slow. So the rate is changing, the dV by dt is changing, and the dV by dt is from maximum to minimum. Now what does this mean? That initially at this point the back EMF will be at its best, which means the back current will be at its best, which means the opposition to the rising positive current will be at the best, which means the I will be here. Now as the rate falls, as the rate of gaining positivity by this pole falls, this is now increasing its potential but not that fast. In such a situation, the current will also fall. Now when the current is falling, how will this be maintained? How will this opposition be maintained? The magnetic flux will reduce because the current is falling. You know that in a coil, the current in the coil decides how much is the magnetic flux linked to its core or how much is the magnetization of the core. So when the current is falling, the magnetic flux will fall, and this will again come back to zero with discharge of the magnetic energy which it could store in the third quarter. So if we recall the complete cycle, in the first quarter, it tried to support the declining positive current and stored some magnetic energy. In the second quarter, it was not at all supported by the voltage, and it tried to maintain the positive current on its own. And because it tried to maintain on its own, you see here at least this is in positive, which means there was some support from this, so it could store. Here it is absolutely negative. When it is negative, how come this can be positive? It is positive because the magnetic field which it could score or store in this part is released here. Now in the second quarter, you can say that the further decline in the positive current was supported somehow by the stored magnetic energy in the inductor. So the whole energy of the magnetic type got discharged in this one. Now from this third quarter, again it tried to oppose the rising positive current by increasing the negative current. Now in this quarter, because both of them are in same phase, which means the voltage was negative and it was trying to give the negative current, so it had an opportunity to increase its flux, and increasing flux means the magnetic energy is stored in the inductor. Now from here you can see again there is no negative polarity available at this pole, but the current is negatively maintained. The current is maintained in the opposite direction. So how come is it maintained? It is maintained by demagnetization of the core, which was magnetized in the previous quarter. So here again the magnetic energy is released, magnetic energy absorbed, magnetic energy released, magnetic energy absorbed, magnetic energy released. So this is how you explain that what actually happened in a circuit which has purely an inductor and an AC circuit, assuming that there is no other component which is dissipative or which is opposing. Now you can see that at any point or in any quarter, the current is always having, if by convention we take these as the highest value, so current is always having a 1 quarter lesser value in the sinusoid, in the waveform, or in the circular scale. You can always see that there is always a 90-degree lag pi by the current with respect to the voltage. Here the voltage is maximum, but it is at 0, which means it will come after a quarter to the maximum. But by the time it is at maximum, this has taken half of the cycle, and it will take the next half. So it is like that. So you will find that there is always a lag of the current by pi by 2 with respect to the voltage of the source, and this is due to the inductive reactance. Analogous to what we have seen in the capacitive reactance, from this sinusoids only, the status of magnetic flux can also be determined. We will just see the sinusoids whether they are on one side of the baseline or they are on the opposite side of baseline. Let's see in first quarter, both of though one is increasing, other is decreasing, but the voltage and the current sinusoids are on the same side and both have the positive value, which means their product is going to be positive and both of them are on the same side. So this is going to be the phase in which magnetic flux will build up and the magnetic energy will be stored in the inductor. If we come to the second quarter, we realize that the sinusoids of current and sinusoid of voltage, the source voltage, lie on the opposite side of the baseline, and one is positive, the current is positive, but the voltage of the source is negative, which means the product is going to be negative. So this is going to be the quarter or the phase of the cycle in which the magnetic energy will be released from the inductor. Same is the situation with the third quarter, in which we can see that both of the sinusoids, though their pattern, their trend is different, one is rising, other is falling, but you can see that both of them are on the same side of the baseline and both of them have the negative value. So the product of two negative value is going to be a positive value. So this is going to be the quarter in which we will say that the magnetic energy or the magnetic flux will build up and the magnetic energy will be stored in the inductor. Coming to the last quarter of the cycle of both the sinusoids, we again see that the voltage is rising, but it is on the upper side, it is on the upper side of the baseline, and the current, it is on the lower side of the baseline. One is positive, other is negative. So again, the product of these two will give us a negative quantity, which means the magnetic energy or the magnetic flux will decrease from inductor and magnetic flux will be so reduced. This was all about the inductive reactance in a circuit which has a pure inductor and an sinusoidally alternating source voltage. So friends, having done the concept of inductive reactance, capacitive reactance and resistance and overall impedance in a circuit, let us try to understand this concept more clearly with an example of a mechanical analogy. We can draw a very interesting analogy between the electrical resistance or impedance and its mechanical counterparts. We find that electrical resistance is analogous to what we see as friction in the mechanical context. Same way we find that capacitors behave like springs behave in a mechanical context, and the inductors behave as mass behave in mechanical context. So let us understand first the mechanical context and then we'll come back to our electrical components and we'll see how these two are analogous or they are counterparts. One is in electrical energy and the other is in the form of mechanical energy. So before we start this analogy, we need to understand first the concept of inertia. Let us take an example. We have a cart. There is a cart and it can be pulled by any mechanical energy or force. It can be pulled by some animal or some engine or some man pullers. So there is a cart which is pulled in this direction and it has a milk container, which is a large container, let's say of 15-20 liters of milk is there in this container, and this container is initially, when the cart is at rest, this container is almost above the first wheel or the front wheel of this cart. Now just assume that the distance between these two wheels, the front wheel and the rear wheel, is around 2 meters. Now we will pull this cart and we see what happens if this cart travels, let's say, 500 meters. So we find when initially this cart was pulled by some mechanical force, the tendency of this milk container was to stay at its own point, but the cart started rolling, or the cart started moving in the direction of the force. We find that the cart starts moving in the direction of the force. For initial time, there is a tendency of this milk container to stay at its place and the cart starts moving. So for initial 2 meters, we will find that the cart has moved, but this container has not moved. So as a result, we find that this container is now shifted from this front wheel to this rear wheel, which means now it has almost traveled at 2 meters of distance, because this was the distance between two wheels. So practically this has traveled 2 meters of distance opposite to the force applied. But this cart is moving in this direction. Actually the cart has moved 2 meters, but relatively we will find that this container has moved 2 meters here. Now with a constant velocity this cart is moving. Let's say at the end the cart stops and the cart comes to rest at 500 meters. So it has traveled a distance of 500 meters from this place to this place. Initially the cart was here, now the cart is here. So this distance is 500 meters. Now we find that in between, at any point of time, if we see that this front wheel has taken 100 meters or 200 meters of distance, this container has taken 2 meters less than that distance from the initial position, because it has come 2 meters behind, or it has come to the rear wheel point, which means in between you will find that at any moment, if the displacement of the cart is 200, 300, 400 meters, the displacement of this container is 2 meters less than that. But the force initially was applied to this complete system. But because of its tendency to remain at rest, for initial some seconds it remained at rest, and due to which the cart moved forward and traveled a distance of around 2 meters, and then these both started moving. And thereon both of them moved, the complete cart moved with a constant velocity, and the container remained at this position only. Now when this cart was stopped, so again there was a tendency of this milk container to remain at this point, and this cart is stopped. So this milk container changes its position from this place to this place. Now think what has happened, what is the change between this and this state of the system. Nothing has changed. And if you see that at initial point and at final point both are at same position, which means the cart along with the container has moved a distance of 500 meters. Only thing is, initially it did not travel that distance, but finally it traveled 2 meters more distance. So initially if it was pushed here due to its tendency to keep itself at rest, finally it moved from this place to this place due to its tendency to remain in motion, because it is in motion. So this tendency to remain in rest or in motion is normally referred to as the inertia in mechanical context. So this was the natural tendency, and the more the weight of this container, or the more the mass of this container, more will be this tendency to remain either in its constant uniform motion or to remain in rest, whichever is the initial position of the mass. So in a way we can say that initially when this cart moved 2 meters, when this did not move, this cart moved from here to here, and this now happens to be on the rear wheel. Where does the energy has gone which was given to this milk container? Because the energy was given to the complete system. This cart utilized that energy to give the kinetic energy or to move. So half mv square will be the energy of this cart for initial 2 meters. But this container has not moved. If this container has not moved, where has the energy gone which was supplied to this? That energy was stored in this container in the form of inertia. You know, there's a difference in the tendency, or there's a difference in the inertia between the final and initial and the final point. Here the tendency is to keep itself in rest, but here the tendency was to keep itself in motion. So how come this change of tendency has occurred? This change has occurred because the inertia has stored that energy which was initially trying to pull it, now it is trying to stop it. So in a way we can say the mass or the inertia always try to resist what is happening to it if it is trying to move, it will resist the movement. If it is trying to stop, it will stop the movement. So this is a kind of storage of energy which we see in the initial part and release of the same energy in the late part or in the final part. So this is almost the concept of the inertia, that inertia is opposite of what it is asked to or what it is subjected to do. If it is asked to or if it is subjected to do some movement, it will try to resist it. And if it is subjected to stop from some movement, it will again try to resist it. And the more the mass of that object, the more will be this tendency or the more will be the inertia in that object to resist that change of state or the mechanical state. So this is the inertia or this is the mass. Now we come to our electrical and mechanical analogy of energy. Here is an example. Let me explain the different components of this example. We have a spring here, we have a rope here, and we have a large mass here, and we have a steel rod here which is rigid. Steel rod with a hook which is rigid. Same, but these are two different situations depending upon the time. Now, the one end of this complete tied system, all these things are tied to each other, and one end of this complete system is attached to a rigid wall. So at time t0, spring is at its neutral position. There is a rope which is laxed here, so it is not stretched fully. So there is a rope which is laxed here. Then there is a mass, and there is a steel rod which is inextensible, which is a rigid rod, a steel rod, and it can be pulled from this end. Now we start pulling it. There is a force which pulls it. Let's say there is a strong man who is trying to pull this complete system. Now what will happen? First of all, there will be a force on this large mass, and as I said, initially because it is at rest, it will try to resist. But then it will start moving because the force will increase. So at some point of time, the force will overpower this inertia and it will start moving. When this moves, this rope which was lax will straighten. So this rope is straightened now, and this mass has moved some distance in the direction of the force applied. Now, once this rope is completely straightened and stretched, and we assume that again this is not going to break also, and this is not going to get overstretched also. So it has taken its maximum length. Now this spring starts opening. So we have stretching of the spring. So number one, this mass starts moving. Number two, this rope gets stretched, and number three, this spring got stretched. So now this is the thing. And suppose at this point of time the force is constant, so nothing will move now. This all is like this. Now when I release this, what will happen? The spring will come back. This rope may lax. Obviously it will lax, and this mass will again come back to this position. Now just think in how many ways I can oppose, or I can put resistance, or I can put opposition to the force that is applied to make the work of this man or this force harder. What are the different ways in which I can make this complete work harder and harder? The obvious thing is, first is, the more the mass, the harder will be for someone to pull it from this place to this place. If I make it 10 times, maybe it becomes impossible for someone to move it from this place to this place. So one thing is mass. So the more the mass, more will be the opposition to this movement. Another thing is, if I have a very rough surface, I'll have to put more hard effect. If I have an oily surface, I will be having less work required. So another point can be this, and what is that? That is basically friction. So first is the mass of the object that we are trying to pull. Second is the friction between the relative movement between this mass and this rigid surface. So more the friction, more will be the work required. The lesser the friction, we make it oily, we make it icy, we make it sandy, we make it rough, So in different situations, this is very obvious to understand that we'll have different work done required for the same work, for the same displacement. Now come to the third thing. So this was the first, the mass, the second, the friction, and the third is the spring. If we take a hard spring, a very hard spring, or if we take a light spring, basically we say the spring constant. There is a term known as spring constant. So if we take a spring of different spring constants, it will make this again opening or stretching of the spring or coming of the spring harder or softer. So which means the third point by which we can oppose this pulling force or we can make this work harder and harder is the spring. So this is your mechanical system. Now if we put back our electrical counterparts or electrical analogous to all these three, I would say, or it is said, that the friction is the resistance. The electrical resistance in circuit is something that is analogous to the mechanical friction or the friction in a moving or in a mechanical context. Now the mass is going to be your inductance. Remember, initially it opposed, final it opposed. When it was constant, it was uniform, it did not oppose. And more interesting thing is here the form of energy is changed. The form of energy is changed. Initially the mechanical energy was stored in inertia. There was no movement. The mechanical energy did not give any movement. This container did not move. It is a cart which moved. Practically we find that this container has moved from this place to this. No, the container has not moved. Container has just shifted itself in relation to this cart because this cart moved. So there was no movement here. So where is that energy gone? The energy is stored in the changed tendency of the mass. Initially the tendency was rest. Now after this event, the tendency is to keep itself in motion. So there is a change in tendency. So which means the energy has taken another form. Previously it was some mechanical energy, that was a pull. Now it is a inertial energy or the change in the inertia or change in the tendency of the mass. Here also this is the mass and it will have the inertial change from rest to movement, from movement to rest. And remember in the inductance, electrical energy was changed into magnetic energy, magnetic flux that built up or that was reduced depending upon the current. If it was increasing, the magnetic field or the magnetic flux will build up, and if the current in these coils were decreasing, the magnetic field or magnetic flux was decreasing. But there was nothing visible. There was nothing electrical. The energy was stored in the form of the magnetic energy. So same here, same here. You cannot find out where has the energy gone. Energy is hidden. Energy is in the changed inertial tendency. Here tendency is rest, here tendency is to keep itself in motion. Which is why initially it came from here to here. Now at the last stage it came back to from this place to this place. So this is almost equivalent or this is almost analogous to your inductance. So mass is or inertia is what we see in electricity as the inductance. Now we come to the spring part. The spring is analogous to capacitor. Capacitor. How do you say that? You see, you realize in a capacitor circuit, the electrical energy was oscillating from this place to this place, this place to this place. It was visible. Here the potential was dropping, here the potential was increasing. Here it was dropping, current took this route. Here it was rising, current took this route. But at least current was same, the energy was same. Here also it was electrical energy or electrical potential energy stored in the electrostatics. Here also it was electrical potential energy stored in the form of the voltage. So the energy did not change its type. It was all the time electrical energy. It was quite apparent also. It was visible also, like it is going here or it is going here. Charge is moving depending upon the difference of the potential difference between these two, this plate and this part, or this plate or this pole. So this was same way you can see here. When it is stretched, you can see, you see, the mechanical energy has not changed into in some inertia or magnetic energy or anything. You can say that mechanically the things have moved. So it is a change you can see, and it is a mechanical change. This is stretched like this. What is this? This is a mechanical change. And when this comes back, again it is a mechanical change. So here the form of the energy is not changed. but the energy is not dissipated. In this case also energy is not dissipated, in this case also energy is not dissipated, in this case also energy is not dissipated. Now here is the difference between your friction and your the other like inertia or spring, or here in the resistance or in capacitance or in inductance. In these two, the capacitor or the inductor, the energy is stored in one type, the energy is stored in a changed manner, in a magnetic manner. In this type, energy is stored in the same type, like an electrical energy is stored in form of electrical energy. But here it is in the form of inertia, mechanical in the form of inertia. Here it is mechanical in the form of mechanical energy, mechanical in the form of mechanicals, which means inductance or the spring is almost analogous to your capacitor. Mass is what you see as inductor, but you see the friction. Suppose you do 10, 15, 30 cycles like this. You do 10, 15, 30 cycles like this. You pull it, release it, it goes back, you pull it, you release it, goes back. If you do the energy calculations, you will find that the complete energy given to the system will not be returned to this system. Now where is the energy gone? You will find that this place is hotter. This surface on which it is moving is hotter, and this ball is also, this mass is also hotter. So which means some part of mechanical energy is converted into heat energy. This is the dissipative part. This mechanical energy is now converted into heat energy, and this heat energy rises the temperature of this mass also and of this surface also, or anything that is in contact of these two things. So friction is a dissipative part. If it moves here, if it moves here, anyways friction is going to happen, and it will dissipate your mechanical energy into heat energy. So this is some part which is not stored, it is absolutely dissipated. The inductor or the mass is some part which is storing, which is not dissipative, which is why it is known as reactance. It is not known as resistance, because it stores energy. It is stored here, it is stored here, and it is released here. Initially zero, stored energy, energy given. So energy stored, energy given, energy stored, energy given. From this point to this point stored, from this point to this point released. Same way it happens in the inductor. Energy stored when the current is more in the coils. Energy released when the current tries to drop in the coil. So this is also some kind of energy which is not, some kind of phenomena which is not dissipating. And same is the case of the capacitor. In the capacitor also we find that the electrical energy oscillates between the source voltage or the alternating source voltage or the capacitor, but it does not dissipate. Had it been a circuit of zero resistance, we will find that the energy will always oscillate and there won't be any loss of energy. You will just have the current taking either this direction or this direction, depending upon the cycle of the sinusoid or depending upon the polarity or potential difference between these two. The current will always take one rule only, that the charge will follow from higher potential to lower potential. We can say that there is an analogy between the electrical or the mechanical context. For resistance, we can say this is equivalent to the friction that we see. Here we have the mechanical counterparts, here we have the electrical counterparts. So this is resistance. The electrical resistance is what we see as friction in the mechanical or the movement context. For the capacitor, they say it is like spring you find in the mechanical context, and 1 by capacitance of the capacitor is equivalent to the spring constant K in a mechanical system. And same is for inductor. For inductor we have the mass, and for inductance, self-inductance we call it sometimes, it's L, and it is equivalent to your mass of this system. So this is an interesting analogy. This further clarifies that what is the difference. Why do we say that both are reactance? Inductance is also reactance and capacitor is also reactance. The difference is in inductance the form of energy is changed, right? But in the capacitor the form of energy is not changed. In spring the form of energy is not changed. Mechanical, pulled mechanically, pulled. Here it is pulled, here it is pulled. Here it is released, here it is. So you can see there is an apparent thing. Now here you do not find anything. This mass remains like this. can we see, can we figure out what is the change it occurred? Only when it stops we find the change, that okay, this has changed its position from this place to this place, from rear wheel to the front wheel. Now this is the change we find when actually it stops. So what is the change here? The change here is the change in the inertial tendency. So that change is brought because of the mechanical energy. So the mechanical energy is converted into the inertial tendency. So same way in the inductance, we don't find any kind of capacitors or charge or higher potential or potential. Only thing is we see that when the current is rising, magnetic flux or magnetic field is built up in this coil, and when the current is dropping, magnetic field is released. The magnetic energy that was stored in the previous episode will be released in an attempt to help the declining current maintain. This was all about the electrical and mechanical. If we go further into this analogy, we find that what is charged in electrical side, we have displacement in mechanical energy or in mechanical context. So charge is analogous to what we see as displacement in the mechanical or motion or mechanics. Same way, if we do the differentiation of both the sides, velocity is the current in the circuit. So these are again two analogous forms you will find. Current is what we find the velocity in the mechanics or in the mechanical context. So this completes our analogy. We start from simplest thing, the displacement, that is the charge. Then we find it the rate of change of charge or the rate of change of displacement, that is the velocity or the current. And when we have a circuit in which we have resistance, it is equivalent to the friction. When we have a circuit in which we have capacitor, it is analogous to the spring. And if we have another component that is inductance, it is analogous to the mass or the inertia of that mechanical or object that is in context of the mechanical energy or mechanics.